She bent her back, mopping the marble floors of a Lagos office where no one looked her in the eye. They whispered that she smelled of dust. They laughed at her cracked plastic watch. Only one woman, Adaora Nnaji, saw her pain and treated her with dignity. But days later, the same voices froze in horror at the Civic Centre. The cleaner they mocked was no ordinary woman. She was Chief Funmilayo Adebayo, the owner of everything around them, and beside her, the quiet temp they had dismissed was her grandson, the true heir. Imagine the shame of realizing the one you despised held your entire future in her hands. Before we begin, hit like and subscribe if you're new to this journey of truth and poetic justice. Let's get into it. Lagos was loud, but the woman in the faded ankara moved like a whisper through the glass doors of Eko Haulage Tech. She wore a cracked plastic watch, rubber slippers, and a calm face that gave nothing away. The security guard glanced up, then back down. The lobby smelled of polish and diesel. Screens blinked with port alerts from Apapa. Shift change. People talked over one another. No one looked twice at the cleaner. That was the point. Kemi Bakare clocked her first. "Madam, this is not mile 12, she said, waving a manicured hand toward the mop like it was a weapon. "If you mess up the tiles, you will pay." A few staff snickered. Someone whispered, "See the watch." 200 naira. The cleaner kept her eyes low and her breath steady. She had learned long ago that Lagos noise can hide Lagos truth. Adaora Nnaji heard the laughter from dispatch and stepped into the lobby. She wore a reflective vest over a plain blouse, headset crooked against her braids, tablet in one hand. "Auntie, sit first," she said, taking the mop and leaning it against the wall. "Water will find cup." She opened the pantry, poured a sachet into a paper cup, pushed a small pack of gala across the counter. "You can clean after you rest. Nobody will die if a floor is wet for 2 minutes." The room went quiet for a second. Kemi rolled her eyes and marched off in high heels, the kind that announce themselves before the person does. The cleaner, Chief Mrs. Funmilayo Adebayo in every room that used her real name, nodded once. "Thank you," she said simply. Her voice held age and iron. Adaora smiled back, already turning as her radio crackled. "Dispatch!" a driver shouted over horns. "Hold up at Liverpool Road again? I fit missed the warehouse window." A young man in a motorcycle helmet slipped in through the side door, laptop bag slung across his shoulder. "New IT temp?" the receptionist asked without interest. He lifted the visor and grinned. "Name is Tunde," he said. In truth, he was Tobi Adebayo, the ghost of the company who preferred code to cameras. Today, he would sit 3 desks from his grandmother and hide in plain sight. They put Tunde beside Adaora for the route optimization pilot. She didn't waste his time with fancy introductions. "We're bleeding minutes at Apapa," she said, pointing at her screen. "Demurrage is laughing at us." "Can you pull real time from that port feed, or is it another dead promise?" Tunde slid into the chair, fingers on keys. "Give me 5. Power blinked once. Generator caught. The office exhaled. Kemi drifted past dispatch like perfume. "Update the CEO deck," she told a junior, loud enough for the room. "Our numbers must shine." Then to the cleaner near the pantry, "Auntie, if you must stand there, at least look busy." The cleaner picked up the mop. Adaora kept her eyes on the map, but her voice carried. "She is busy. Respect is free, Kemi." A few faces lifted, surprised she said it so calmly. Radio again. "Dispatch, this is driver Okan. Trailer stuck at Creek Road. The crane people are sleeping." Adaora toggled the grid, fingers steady. Okan, copy. Skip mile 2, stop, hit Alausa first, then loop back after 1800 when that gate wakes up. Tunde tapped an override on the pilot tool, reshuffling the sequence with a clean drag and drop. Try now, he said. The screen recalculated ETAs. Adaora nodded. Okan, you just earned 40 minutes. Don't waste it. A laugh came back through static. God bless you, madam. The cleaner watched the small things, how Adaora greeted drivers by name, how she owned a typo without blaming the intern, how she listened before she spoke. She also watched the other small things, how Kemi only smiled upward, never sideways, how people spoke softer when the receptionist changed her wig, how kindness made the room breathe easier even when nothing else worked. Near closing, the air turned thick with heat and diesel as alerts rolled in. A customs delay, a broken forklift, rain threatening from the island. Adaora kept the board moving, one problem at a time. Tunde, your tool is saving us today, she said, not looking away from the tablet. He shrugged to hide the pride. It's not the tool. It's the person driving it. She almost smiled and then caught herself, eyes back on the map. When the last driver signed off and the office thinned, the cleaner wiped the lobby edges with slow, precise strokes. Kemi passed again with her bag and a final comment tossed over her shoulder. Auntie, lock the door when you're done. Don't touch the reception plant. The heels clicked away toward the night. The light flickered once, then twice. The generator lagged. In the half-dark, the cleaner's hand went to her chest for a moment, as if to steady a stitch. She breathed in, shallow. Adaora noticed from across the room and crossed back to the lobby without a word. Sit, she said, guiding the older woman to the bench, one hand on her elbow. She dialed a ride, then waited beside her, both of them facing the glass where Apapa alert still scrolled on a leftover screen. The city roared outside. Inside, it was quiet enough to hear a cracked watch tick. The cleaner turned her head and studied Adaora's profile like it was a map. I see you, her eyes seemed to say, and Adaora, who did not believe in performing goodness, kept her hand steady until the headlights pulled up to the curb. Morning came with a damp heat that made the glass doors fog for a breath each time they opened. The cleaner was already there, wringing out a brown mop, the cracked watch ticking softly. She moved with the slow care of someone who had done work all her life and did not need witnesses. Adaora slid into dispatch 5 minutes early, headset on, tablet awake, pen tucked in the crook of her ear. Tunde beat her by 2 minutes, helmet in hand, laptop alive before his chair even settled. The screens blinked route lines from Apapa to Ikeja like veins, some pulsing red with delays. Outside, horns folded into one long Lagos note. By 8, the rumor had found every corner of the building. The real CEO is coming back next week. New task force. New team Kemi polished the same paragraph on a slide 3 times and sent a broadcast to update numbers for leadership optics. She paused near the pantry, where the cleaner was refilling a bucket. If the CEO comes and sees water on the floor, you will count your days, she said, then turned to a junior. Order flowers. White. Rich people don't like loud colors. The junior nodded as if this was law. The cleaner kept her eyes lowered and tested the mop head as if it might speak. The drivers lined up as if pulled by invisible string. Dispatch, Okan on Creek Road, crackled through the radio. Crane boys are sleeping again. Copy, Adaora replied steady. Hold, Check with Musa's lane. Might trade drops. She glanced at Tunde. Your tool, can it see today's gait rhythm, not last week's? Tunde flicked open the feed, the pilot window filling with green and amber dots. It can see what the gate coughed 5 minutes ago if the port doesn't lie. He started typing. Adaora took a breath like a swimmer. We need minutes. Every minute is rent and someone's school fees. As if called by the thought, Musa Bello appeared at the counter, cap in hand, sweat shining at his temples, though the AC hummed. He stood like a man staring at a river he had to cross without a bridge. Madam Ada, he said, voice low, I beg, my boy's WAEC fee balance is due today. The bank will close. If I do the last drop first, the bank will lock before I reach. If I do the bank first, the last drop will miss window, and they will find me and shout at me. He held his work phone out like proof, the SMS blinking with a deadline. Adaora looked at her board, at the schedule that had no softness built into it. Who manages the last drop? The man at Ikeja warehouse, Musa said. You know him. He does not laugh. Adaora's eyes moved and her mouth set. Give me 5, she said. She walked to the corner, dialed Ikeja, took a breath while it rang. Good morning, Oga. It's Adaora. One of our drivers is in a tight corner. I need to move his drop to second in the sequence. I know the cutoff. I am asking you to hold the gate 10 minutes if he is late. I will own the penalty if it hits. There was a long silence. If you will own it, bring paper, the man said finally. Adaora hung up, wrote a note on a printed form, signed it, and put her phone number on the bottom in big writing. She gave the note to dispatch admin. Scan this to Ikeja, CC Finance. Tell them I approved a possible penalty. Tell them why the admin blinked. Nobody volunteered to pick up penalties. You will pay from your unit? He asked. We will cover from dispatch, Adaora said. If there is shouting, they will shout at me first. She turned to Musa. Go to the bank first. Do not waste that window. When you clear it, call. We will slide the sequence. Do not overspeed. I am not paying for police. Tunde watched her as if someone had switched on a light inside the room. He adjusted the route tool, dragged Musa's bank stop to top, shuffled 2 other trucks to swallow the delay. If we lock this before 10:15, we will land under the demurrage threshold, he said. I will watch the port feed. If it coughs, I will cough back. Adaora looked at him for a half-second longer than normal, then nodded. Okan, copy new sequence. Musa, go. Update me when bank stamps Musa's shoulders fell as if he had been carrying the building. He pushed his cap back, the relief, almost a laugh that didn't escape. God bless you, he said, and moved like a man pulled by hope. The cleaner stood in the shadow of the pillar, the mop handle under her palm. Her eyes flicked from Adaora's signature to Musa's back. The note was neat. The reason line was simple. Driver needs bank before cutoff. Adjusted sequence. Potential penalty. Dispatch accepts risk. She breathed out through her nose, very slow, as if thanking someone nobody else could see. Then she returned to the slow work of making a clean line along the skirting, listening to who said thank you and who did not as they stepped over her bucket. By noon, the rumor of the CEO had grown teeth. New task force will pick high performers, Kemi said to her circle, polishing her voice. We need to look like solutions, not like labor. She passed dispatch and paused as if smelling something. Adaora, a heads up. Leadership doesn't like to hear about penalties. Adaora did not look up. Leadership should like to hear about drivers paying WAEC fees, too, she said, then added, almost to herself, and about gates that close early. Kemi's smile didn't reach her eyes. Sentiment is not KPI, she said. Image is. She drifted away on heels that told her own story. Late afternoon, Kunle arrived like a memory that didn't knock. He leaned on the dispatch doorway like a man who had always been welcome. Fine shirt, watch that wanted to be noticed. Cologne that wanted a room. Adaora, he said, playing with syllables like coins. Long time. You look strong. Adaora kept her face still. People are working, she said. He smiled wider. I came to congratulate. Atlantic Track is watching. You are the only one here who can hold 2 radios and 3 drivers and still calculate. My boss wants brave people. We can fix your little suspension problem if anything happens. Bring your talent where people value it. His eyes slid to the screens like he already owned them. Adaora let him talk. Yes, then she said, if I wanted to sell secrets, I would have done it when I needed rent. Go. He leaned closer, lowered his voice. Think. This place will dump you. They only love you when you bleed for them. He flicked a card on the counter and walked away slow enough for the card to feel heavy. Tunde pretended to be busy with a router, but his jaw was set. When Kunle's cologne finally left the air, Tunde spoke without looking up. Do you want me to block that email domain? Adaora shook her head. No. Let him send noise. I will not answer. Noise dies if you don't feed it. At 4, a black Prado rolled into the compound, and the guard straightened like a soldier. A man stepped out in Agbada so white the sun bounced off it. Baba Shola, who usually drove trucks, now wore dark shades and carried himself like a board chairman on a billboard. 2 executives from upstairs appeared as if pulled by a magnet. Sir! Kemi was suddenly there, voice sweet enough to pour. Welcome, sir. What an honor, sir. We have a deck ready. She half bowed, half guided him toward the conference room, eyes sweeping the room to see who was watching her. The cleaner glanced once and looked away. Adaora kept working. The man in Agbada paused and turned not to Kemi, but to dispatch. Who is in charge of drivers today? He asked. Adaora raised her hand from her chair. I handle dispatch, she said. The new module is on pilot. Kemi cut in. She means she assists IT, she said, then laughed as if to make it light. The man in Agbada looked at Adaora. What is eating your time? She didn't flatter him. Northbound corridor wait times. Demurrage because of unpredictable gate hours. We need small buffer for grace. Also, we need reflective vests replaced. Half are torn. A driver was almost hit last night. He nodded slowly. Cost? Not expensive, she said. Cheaper than a funeral. The room made a small sound at that. Kemi almost hissed. We will discuss in the right forum, she said quickly. The man in Agbada turned his head in a way that said he had heard enough. Show me your board, he told Adaora. She took him through the grid like she was leading him through a street she had walked since childhood. He asked one question that only someone who had felt night rain on an axle would ask. When the rain falls at 7, which road lies? The one that looked honest in the morning, Adaora said. The man's mouth tilted like he might smile. He put his palm on the counter once, then left as suddenly as he came. Kemi fluttered after him with the deck that nobody had asked to see. When the Prado faded, the cleaner went back to the pantry and rinsed the cloth as if rinsing a thought. In her mind, She wrote 2 columns, who bowed and who stood straight. She placed Adaora in ink. She placed others in pencil. She placed 1 or 2 in a margin with a small question mark she intended to erase later. The day slipped into evening. The building breathed out. Tunde shut down the pilot window and rolled his chair back. Adaora sent the last message to driver Okon and pressed the headset off. "Eat," Tunde said, lifting a brown envelope that smelled like smoke and pepper. "Ojwa legba suya," he added, guilt already in his grin. "Bribery," Adaora said, but the corners of her mouth softened. They took the suya to the back steps where the heat escaped and the night air tasted like dust and rain. Outside, buses dragged their voices along the road. 2 drivers laughed under a jacaranda. "Why this work?" Tunde asked, chewing slow. "You could have done another thing." Adaora watched a truck reverse under a yellow light. "My mother sells fabrics at Belogan. She taught me to count honestly and to carry loads low so they don't cut your hands. This work is counting and carrying. Drivers bring food to people who wear suits and go home. Somebody should count for them too." Tunde nodded like a student hearing a clean answer. "You?" she asked. He looked at his helmet. "I like to make broken things behave. Code or wires or maps. It feels like telling a stubborn goat to go home and then watching it obey." She laughed, a quick sound she didn't try to hide. His phone buzzed, and he stood to take it out of habit, then stopped and let it buzz out. Adaora pretended not to notice. He sat again. "If the real CEO comes," she said lightly, "will your contract end?" "Maybe," he said. "Maybe I will still be here fixing wires in the ceiling like a ghost." She shrugged. Ghosts see everything. They ate in companionable quiet until the suya paper was clean and greasy. At 9, the building was dim. The cleaner checked the doors and turned off the pantry switch. Adaora walked her to the curb again out of habit. "You don't have to," the older woman said. "I know," Adaora replied. "I want to." A keke slowed and then moved. A small car pulled up. The cleaner climbed in and looked back once, eyes lingering on the 2 young people framed by fluorescent light. She nodded to herself as if a sum had balanced. An hour later, Tunde's laptop pinged with a notification most people in the company never saw. It was an IT channel he had created under the pretext of monitoring the pilot. A bot had posted a screenshot from the access logs, a square white image with bold black text and a timestamp. "Restricted tender, access 2113, user Nnaji." Tunde froze. The same stomach drop as a sudden pothole at speed. His fingers hovered, then flew. He checked the server list, the audit trail. The lines were cold. Someone had used Adaora's login to open a folder she did not have reason to touch. Across the room, Kemi's laughter floated from the corridor like perfume again, too loud for an empty floor. In the dim, Tunde glanced at dispatch. Adaora was still there, head bent over her tablet, finishing notes for the morning crew. She hadn't looked up. She hadn't seen the screenshot. He swallowed, felt the taste of pepper and iron mix, and watched the cursor blink beside her name as if it could be erased by will alone. The log on Tunde's screen blinked like an accusation. He checked it 3 times, chased the audit trail, confirmed the IP, matched the minute. The folder wasn't even something Adaora would touch unless she'd been told to. Across the room, she was still writing morning notes, neat lines that helped people breathe when things went wrong. He stood, then sat, then stood again. His first impulse was to cross the floor and tell her everything. His second was to rip off the helmet and name and be done. He felt the weight of both and walked instead to the cleaner's cupboard. The smell of soap and metal hung in the small square space. The cleaner didn't look up as he entered. She was folding rags with the precision of a ledger. "Grandma," he said, voice low, "someone used Adaora's login to open the tender folder. Tonight, the logs are clean, too clean. This is a plant, the rags stacked, edge to edge." "I hear you," she said. "We go slow." He swallowed. "HR will see it first thing. They will suspend her by 9. I can stop it if I—" "No," she said, gentle as a tap on a drum. "Let truth walk on its own feet. If you talk now, it becomes your word. We need their eyes to see their own hands." He bristled. "I can't watch them carry her like a thief." "You will not watch," she said, closing the cupboard softly. "You will work. Pull every log around that time. Pull camera lists. See who asked for camera angles last week. Bring me names. I will bring you mouths that still tell the truth in this city." Morning came with a tap on Adaora's shoulder and 2 HR faces she had never met before. "Please come with us," one said, dry as paper. "We need to discuss an access incident." The staircase to HR felt longer than usual. In the small room, a printout waited. Circled time, circled file name, circled user, A.N. Nnaji. Adaora sat straight and kept her hands on the table so nobody could say they shook. "I didn't access that folder," she said. "Then how do you explain it?" the man asked, satisfied like he'd locked a lid. "Your login was used." "Exactly," she said. "Used. By who? Find that, and you find your answer." They told her she was suspended pending investigation, that she should hand in her badge, that she could appeal in writing. She nodded once, slid the badge across, stood, and walked out through an office that suddenly had too much air. Kemi stood near the printer with sympathy glued to her face. "Ah, Ada. Sorry. Oh, if there is anything I can do—" Adaora looked at her a beat and then looked away. "Tell the morning crew to check the Ikorodu backlog," she said to no one in particular. "The gate slipped yesterday." Outside, the heat hit like a hand. She walked toward the bus stop, phone dark in her palm. At Balogan, Madame Nnaji was already awake, rolling bales from the back of the stall to the front. "You've not eaten," her mother said without looking up. "Sit." Adaora didn't sit. She told the story in 4 sentences. Her mother listened and then pulled a small red coral thread from the bottom of a tin. "Your grandmother gave me this when the landlord lied about measurements," she said, tying it around Adaora's wrist. "Courage. When mouths are loud, keep your own mouth straight." Adaora almost smiled. "Mummy, I might lose this job." "Then the job is the thing that was lost," her mother said, slapping dust from her hands. "Not you." She packed food into a nylon and pushed it at her daughter. "Eat when your throat allows." Kunle found her at the curb as if he had planned it. He slid from a car and leaned with the same old grin. "I heard," he said, not pretending. "Come, let's talk in the car. I can fix. My people can make things disappear. All it takes is you pulling one database for me, small one, nothing heavy. We'll show them their system is open and you are the only one who understands it. You'll be valuable, Ada." She stared at him as if remembering the exact day she had started to forget him. "Get out of my way." He stepped aside like he was generous. "Think before you bleed for people who will not thank you." She walked past him and caught a bus to Ikeja, then switched at Underbridge without looking back. In the cleaner's clothing, Mama Fumi rode a danfo to Yaba and stepped into a print shop that smelled of toner and cheap coffee. The boy at the counter had a tired face and ink on his knuckles. "Please," she said, setting a small nylon of meat pies on the counter like an old-fashioned thank you. "I am looking for my niece's flash drive. Last week, a fine girl came to scan at night. I want to know if she returned it." The boy laughed before he could stop himself. "Nobody returns flash drives," he said. "They lose them." Then he tilted his head. "Wait. Night, a fine office girl, wore a lemon perfume. She came 2 nights. USB was white. She said her office printer was political." "Do you know her name?" The boy shrugged. "She paid with a card first time. Name was K something. Kemi?" He looked at the meat pies again and broke. "She asked if our CCTV catches the corner. I told her only the door. She still looked up at it like it was God. 'Thank you,' Mama Fumi said, sliding the nylon closer. On her way back, she stopped at the estate gate and asked the night guard a question about camera angles. He scratched his head and nodded. "That office lady came last week to ask where the reception camera points at night. I told her it sees the lobby, not the corridor." "Which corridor?" "The one past the server room," he said, embarrassed he hadn't thought to report it. "She said she likes security," and laughed. In a side office at Eko Haulage, Tunde drew a square around 2100 to 2200 and pulled every log. Door swipes, printer spools, Wi-Fi associations, mouse activity. He found a card swipe on a back entrance, time stamped 10 minutes before the tender access. He found a printer waking when no job was sent. He found a mouse moving in a straight mechanical line instead of the nervous circles people made when they were thinking. He wrote the pattern down and sent it to a private thread they had created years ago for family emergencies. His grandmother sent back one line, "Good." Then another, "Town hall is next week at Civic Centre. We show them in their Sunday clothes." HR emailed Adaora a formal letter with a mild threat at the bottom about confidentiality. She typed a reply that was 3 sentences long, asking for camera footage, log details, and naming the times she had been physically in the dispatch room, a witness list of 2 drivers and 1 receptionist. She sent it and turned off her phone. All afternoon she helped her mother at the stall, counting change, not crying. By evening, she walked past Computer Village, bought nothing, and let the noise wash the ache from her bones. In the office, after hours, Kemi moved like a person who had rehearsed. She wore flats this time, no heels to announce her. She slid her card at the side door, paused under the dead camera, and pulled a white flash drive from her bag. The corridor lights hummed. She glanced once at the lobby, where the reception camera blinked red, then stepped sideways into the angle it missed. Her shadow stretched long on the wall as she slipped the drive into a port and waited for the small, greedy light to flicker. Sunday clothes filled the Civic Center like a second skin. Staff stood in rows under cool lights, eyes on the big screen. The cleaner waited near a service door in her faded ankara, head tied low. Tunde stood at the back in his helmet, anonymous among suits. HR cleared a throat. "We will review a security incident." The room stilled. The footage rolled. Timestamp 23:52. The side door, a card swipe, a white flash drive. A figure stepped into the blind angle, the camera catching only a sliver of cheek, the curve of a shoulder. The next clip showed the tender folder opening on a quiet monitor. then the freeze frame, a hand on the drive, nails neat, wrist bare. Someone gasped. Someone whispered a name without meaning to. Kemi stared too hard at the floor, then at Adaora, then at the floor again. The security manager spoke soft, like he was reading a prayer. Server logs match this time. Wi-Fi shows a phone registered to K. Bakare. Printer woke with no job. Mouse moved in a straight line. We believe a frame was attempted, heads turned as if pulled by one string. HR began to move toward Adaora with a scripted apology, but the cleaner stepped forward first. She took off her head tie. White hair, iron eyes. The room rocked. "Good morning," she said. "My name is Chief Mrs. Funmilayo Adebayo." Silence held like breath. People who had laughed at the cracked watch gripped their folders as if they might fall. Kemi's mouth opened and closed without sound. The cleaner, no longer a cleaner, tilted her chin. "When you mocked a woman with a mop, you spoke to your own character, not mine." She looked past them to the back. "Tunde." The helmet came off. Simple haircut. Quiet face. "My name is Tobi Adebayo," he said. "I wanted to see how the company breathes when titles leave the room." A wave of whispers broke and folded. Adaora watched him like you watch a road you've walked at night and suddenly see by daylight. She spoke once, voice even. "You worked beside me and said nothing." He held her look. "I was wrong to hide from you," he said. "I will answer for that." HR muttered about procedure. Security moved toward Kemi. She stepped back and then forward and then stopped, as if every direction had turned to glass. The footage replayed. Nobody could unsee it. By evening, Ikoyi was quiet enough to hear geckos click. Tobi set a cold glass on a low table, Zobo sweating red rings on the wood. He went to wash his hands. The balcony door clicked. Sapphire Adeola slipped in like a photo. Blue pendant. Perfect smile that never reached the eyes. Kunle was a shadow behind her, jaw tight. Sapphire found the wine tray empty, and her grin thinned. Then she saw the Zobo. "Sweet," she said. The vial in her palm gleamed once. A drop fell, then another. The surface shivered with an oily sheen and a thin film like rainbow skin. The handle turned. Mama Fumi stepped in and did not blink. She crossed the room and, with a small, hard motion, slapped the glass onto the rug. Red spread like a wound. She lifted the broken rim, sniffed once, narrowed her eyes. "Zobo know they separate like that," she said. The guard was already at the door. Tobi stood in the hallway, wet hands, face set. Sapphire smiled like a child caught near a jar. "It was only a joke," she said too quickly. Kunle's mouth had no answer. The CCTV at the gate had caught their entry. The security man with the new vest had seen the vial. They walked them out under quiet lights. No shouting, no scenes, just the soft scrape of slippers on tile and the sound of a pendant tapping against a collarbone. Later, when the room was clean and the rug was gone, Adaora stood in the doorway. She looked at the broken glass and then at Tobi and then at Mama Fumi. "Every day you ask for character," she said, tired to the bone. "Me too. Ask it of yourselves." She turned, the red coral thread bright on her wrist, and left before either of them could answer. Morning brought a staff forum where people lined up with paper in their hands and apologies in their mouths. HR read a correction, cleared Adaora, and stumbled over the word sorry. Kemi did not return to the building. Mama Fumi stood without scarf or title and spoke like a market woman setting prices. "From today, bullying ends. If you cannot speak with respect, you cannot work here." She set a calabash by the punch clock and tied a string through its lip. This is the suggestion box. Anonymous. Collected weekly. If you fear a man's face, write his name. We will read it. She pointed at a poster by the door. New print. Big letters. Report. Protect. Repair. The room exhaled not in relief, but in start. Tobi found Adaora that evening at Balogan, where her mother folded cloth like prayer. He brought nothing in a bag. He brought a stapled ledger of her fixes no one had credited and a signed approval for the driver safety clinic at Ojodu Burger. Cones, vests, a first aid station, a small stipend for a retired marshal to train new hands. I was listening, he said. I hid my name and I was wrong. If you want me far, I will go far. If you want me near, I will stand where you point. She looked at the ledger, then at his face. No more masks, she said. No gifts you can post on Instagram. If you mean it, show up. He nodded, and the next Saturdays, he was there at the stall, lifting bales and counting change without fanfare. In the yard, at Tin Can, clearing a demurrage tangle for an owner-operator whose wife had just delivered, at Moose's one-room flat checking WAEC, past questions with a boy who grinned like someone had opened a window. At dawn in Surulere, two families faced each other in a small sitting room. Cola nut, palm wine, introductions, prayers that did not shout. The aunties teased softly. The uncles asked plain questions. Tobi's father spoke a blessing. Madam Nnaji pressed her daughter's hand. Mama Fumi took a small wrapped cloth from her bag and opened it to show a brass bangle rubbed thin by years. For the one who remembered those who sweep, she said, slipping it onto Adaora's wrist under the red coral thread. Character is the only title that cannot fall. On Monday, the cleaner's closet at Eko Haulage stood unlocked. A new heir hovered by the doorway, uncertain. Adaora passed, took a pair of gloves from the shelf, and placed them in the woman's hands. "Welcome," she said, and meant it. Above the sink, someone had hung a small sign in careful paint. Owa lewa, character is wealth. As the first trucks rolled out of Apapa and climbed onto Third Mainland, the city roared back to life. Inside the building, the soft tick of a cracked watch could still be heard if you listened. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please share your thoughts and tell us what you learned in the comment box. We would truly love to read them. And guess what? Another powerful story is coming your way in just a few days. So don't forget to subscribe to this channel, turn on your notification bell, and hit the like button. Most importantly, share this story with your family and friends. Thank you so much for watching.